Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unsportsmanlike Conduct. I'm your guy, Christian Stoynev. Today, we're going to talk about the Carson Wentz trade. One of the chips has fallen within the NFL offseason, and maybe some more will come along now that Wentz has been dealt to the Indianapolis Colts. I'll take a look at that trade, see what I think about it, and honestly, I think the Colts did pretty good in this one, but we'll talk about that. We're also going to take a look as the NBA All-Star starters have been released. We have the starters, we have the lineups that are set for the March 7th game in Atlanta. And then we're going to talk about the NBA week that we've had so far. The Milwaukee Bucks are struggling. Are they going to get back to the Bucks that we know being one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference? Or are they going to keep falling down the standings like they're doing so far in this week? So we will recap all that. First, we need to start with the Carson Wentz trade. And let's just take a look at how this deal came about and what each team is getting. All right, so as you can see, the Eagles are getting a third-round draft pick for this draft coming up, and they're getting a 2022 second-round draft pick, which could become a first-rounder if Carson Wentz plays 70% of the snaps. Obviously, that means he has to stay healthy, which has been kind of questionable for Carson Wentz. But also remember that he's been dealing with a pretty bad and banged up offensive line in Philadelphia, which maybe has aided to his injuries. Last year wasn't just that. He was healthy for some of the games, but they were putting in Jalen Hurts once their season was kind of falling apart to see what the kid could do. So ultimately, I feel like the Eagles sold themselves short here. I mean, the market wasn't too hot for Carson Wentz, but maybe they waited too long. Maybe this was something they should have done during the regular season. The disadvantage for the Colts is obviously Carson Wentz has this big contract. But if you really take a look at the numbers in Carson Wentz, which I'm going to do right now as I pulled up the stats, and I was looking at this earlier, Wentz back in 2017, in the second year in the league, had 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He played pretty solid that year. Don't forget, that's the year that obviously he got hurt in the playoffs, and that's where Nick Foles came in, and the rest is history. The following year, Wentz also 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He hasn't been this high turnover guy until this last season. This last season, he had 16 touchdowns and 15 picks, which is pretty damn bad. His QBR was under 50. That's horrible. So he had a pretty shitty season, which obviously is why his market is so low. But now you just look at the situation that he's going into. Obviously, last year with the Eagles drafting Jalen Hurts pretty high, also changes the landscape as a quarterback. Sure, though, you want to say that the mental part of it, they need to be mentally strong, which for sure they should be. I mean, hey, the Packers drafted a quarterback too, and Aaron Rodgers just came out and balled out and had an MVP type year. I mean, he did win MVP. That's a knock on Carson Wentz. I don't care who the Eagles drafted. He should have still performed. But really, when you take a deeper look, I mean, you look at that season in 2017 where he had 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He had a pretty good year. He had a QBR of 78.5. But if you look at this, I mean, he was sacked only 28 times that year. 28 times in the whole season. Last year, where he played a game less than he did in 2017, he got sacked almost twice as much. He got sacked 50 times. So what do you think is going to happen? Obviously, turnovers are going to go up. Obviously, he has less time in the pocket. He's going to be scrambling around. All those things, are a big deal when you're looking at a quarterback statistically and what he's provided for the team. Not just that, if you look at that 2017 season, think about the weapons he had then. I mean, he had Alshon Jeffrey, which was a big target for them. Nelson Aguilar, who now with the Raiders has played pretty solid football. Both of those guys had over 750 receiving yards as wide receiver 1 and 2. The third wide receiver, Torrey Smith, was a pretty solid, reliable receiver. He had 430 yards receiving and 36 catches. Zach Ertz was in his prime. Zach Ertz that year had over 800 yards receiving and 8 touchdowns. So when you look at that, I mean, he had weapons. What about the running backs? He had LeGarrette Blount. Remember, that year the Eagles were pretty much playing LeGarrette Blount. What's his name? Joe Adai. Jay Ajayi. Yeah, that guy. Remember him? I don't remember his name, but I remember him playing well. But Jay Ajayi, they also had Corey Clement, who caught that touchdown in the Super Bowl. Like, they had 3 reliable running backs that they were rotating. That Eagles offense was a threat. And the system was working at the time. And now you look at this past year, who did Carson Wentz have as his Weapons, he had Miles Sanders, solid running back, but he was the only running back really for the Eagles this year. Then you had Travis Fulgham, who had 38 catches and a little over 500 yards receiving. He's in his second season. He only played 8 games. You had Jalen Reagor, the rookie, who played 11 games and had 31 catches, less than 400 yards receiving. Those were his 2 top wide receivers. Zach Ertz only had 300 yards, 335, and 1 touchdown. So that's a significant, decrease. Like I said, the sacks, 50 sacks. You don't even have time to get the ball out to these guys. So, you have to look at all these things. Obviously, everyone is quick to shit on Carson Wentz and say he had a horrible year, which no doubt he did. But all these things play a factor. The Eagles had so many injuries this past season. They didn't have weapons whatsoever. And now he goes into this great situation with a coach that's coached him before. And look at the weapons that the Colts have. Obviously, the Colts were just in the playoff game against the Bills, which they barely lost. And, they're stacked. You got Michael Pittman Jr., who's an up-and-coming wide receiver, way better than Jalen Reagor, who was a rookie in the Eagles. T.Y. Hilton, that dude, you heard of him? Yeah, he's awesome. So those are 2 reliable wide receivers already that are just going to be huge. And the third best wide receiver there is Zach Pascal, who's a pretty solid third receiver also. So he's got weapons at the receiver position. The running backs, Jonathan Taylor, who came out strong towards the end of last year, great running back there in Indianapolis. Nyheim Hines is a great third down running back who can catch out of the backfield. And an upgrade in offensive line, not to mention the tight ends Jack Doyle. They got Trey Burton, who used to be with the Eagles before, and Mo Alley Cox. So this Colts team and their defense is better. So when you think about all these things, I feel like the Colts are just going for it, man. Like, honestly, people should realize, in my opinion, that this is a big, big trade because Phillip Rivers got them to the playoffs and competing in the playoffs, and Carson Wentz is a bigger threat than Phillip Rivers. Don't forget, Phillip Rivers is also a turnover threat. He's been known to be a turnover threat. I'm going to look up his numbers real quick. But, Rivers, when he was with the Chargers, was turning the ball over all the time. So a lot of that has to do with, obviously, the scheme and where they're playing and how they're playing. And here, we'll take a look. So he had 24 touchdowns and 11 picks, did Phillip Rivers. So, Wentz had 4 more picks than him. He played less games also, though. But again, like I said, now you plug in Carson Wentz. There's no reason why I don't think Carson Wentz can put up 24 touchdowns and less than 11 interceptions with that offense in Indianapolis. So, to me, that's a huge win for the Colts. I think that draft pick that's could become a first rounder. I think that's going to stay a second rounder. I think Wentz is going to play more than 70% of the season. Like I said, yes, he's had injuries, but he was sacked 50 times last year. Of course, you're going to get banged up. So, again, that's just unbelievable statistics, unbelievable numbers there. So, I think when you look at that totality, it's a huge deal that the Colts got Carson Wentz. I know that a lot of people obviously aren't high on him because he had such a bad season. Obviously, the Super Bowl season hurts him, the fact that he got hurt, and then here comes Nick Foles and wins the Super Bowl. So that's not a good look for him. I get all that. But don't forget, this guy had a great year in 2017. The next year wasn't a horrible year. He's had the only year he really had, worse numbers than Phillip Rivers was last year. And, Phillip Rivers took the Colts to the playoffs, and I don't see why Carson Wentz can't. So we'll see how that plays out. And obviously now we're just waiting for some other chips to fall. Obviously the Deshaun Watson one is still up in the air. That's kind of lost some ground. So we'll see what happens with that. J.J. Watt's still a free agent. So all these things maybe could start moving around. Jimmy G has been in the news. Maybe he'll, move around. I heard a rumor about the Denver Broncos possibly looking to get a quarterback as well. So hopefully we have more trades coming our way, and then we get to talk about those. But let's shift gears now, and let's take a look at the NBA All-Star team. The starters have been announced. So in the West, we have Luka Doncic, Stephen Curry, of course, LeBron James, Nikola Jokic, and Kawhi Leonard. That's the West starters. The team captain is LeBron James, which well-deserved. Now in the East, we have Kyrie Irving, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Giannis, and Joel Embiid, with the captain being KD. pretty much have the Brooklyn lineup and a couple other players. And let me just start there. Super, super, super disappointed in the fans for voting Kyrie Irving in. I just hate that it's a popularity contest and it's just a reality, and I get it. I just hate it because Kyrie Irving has played in 21 games this season, and the Brooklyn Nets are 19-12. They played 31 games, so he's missed 10 of their games, half of those because he just didn't feel like playing, and yet we're rewarding him with this all-star starter, not even just an all-star, he's a starter. And again, sure, he has good numbers. He's shooting over 50% from the field, 27, almost 28 points a game. He's got 5.5 assists. But there are just players that just, in my opinion, deserve that honor way more than Kyrie Irving. Harden's going to get in, of course, as a reserve. And guys like that just, did we forget that Harden for the first 10 games pretty much didn't give a shit and just walked through the games, was super unprofessional and didn't care. I just hate that these guys get rewarded with an honor that's supposed to be, I get it. It's not a totality. Charles Barkley says it best. This isn't a lifetime achievement award. Sure, Kyrie Irving hit a big shot in the finals. Who cares? This is about this season. It's about the team you're on this season, their record, your numbers, and, your production and your sample size. A guy that I think is deserving of an all-star nod, but I think the coaches won't give him that, or probably shouldn't, is Anthony Davis, because same thing with Anthony Davis. He's played 23 games for the LA Lakers. The Lakers are 22-8, so, he's missed almost 30% of their games, and he's out for the next 4 to 6 weeks. So these next couple games, he's going to be missing. So by the time the All-Star game comes around, he would have played less than 30% of less than 60% of the games for the Lakers. And, I don't know if the coaches will think about that, but hopefully they realize that, because there's going to be someone else, that's been playing more for those teams and had an impact on those squads. And so, for me, obviously, the good thing for AD is in the forward category in the West, Paul George was next to him in voting, and Paul George's been injured too and missing some time as well. Zion is the next guy there, and then you have Rudy Gobert, which, I'm sorry, but winning should be rewarded. I would put Rudy there ahead of Anthony Davis. Not so much Zion, but the kid's playing well. But, to me, that matters. If you're on the court, if you're producing, if you're playing, that matters. And, when you look at the West, Steph and Luka getting in, obviously, same thing with Luka. I love Luka, and he's got great numbers. But, his team is not doing so well. The good thing is that Luka has been reliable. Luka's been playing most of the games for the Mavs. He's been in the lineup. He's been pretty much the only thing going for the Mavs. And if he wasn't on that team, they'd be probably last in the West. So that I understand. And, even though you can say guys like Dame got snubbed, or guys like, to me, more than Dame, Donovan Mitchell, because the teams, they've won 20 of the last 21 games. The Utah Jazz, people need to put some respect on them. Sure, they may flame out in the playoffs. Say what you want about that. But you got to respect what's going on right now. And this team is 24-5. They've won 9 in a row. Again, they've won 20 of the past 21 games. This team is red hot. And it starts with Donovan Mitchell. Even the last few games, Conley's been injured. So they better have, I just would not understand how the Jazz wouldn't have 2 guys in at the All-Star game, but the Lakers would have LeBron and AD. Or Brooklyn's going to have 3 guys in there, and they have a worse record. You got to reward, ultimately, the goal in basketball individually and as a team is to win. And individually is to help your team win. Because if you forget that message, most likely your team ain't going to be winning if you're just a ball hog and trying to put up stats. So, again, there's just some questionable things with how, the voting goes. I hate, obviously, that. It's a fan event, so I get it. But let the fans vote for the slam dunk contest and who they want in there, the 3-point shootout. But when it comes down to the All-Star game, it's just bigger than that to me because, like I said, it's an honor. LeBron is very well deserved. This man has been in the All-Star game every single year pretty much. And it's just something that LeBron, it's his 17th All-Star appearance. That means something. When he retires and they're like 20-time All-Star, when he gets there, that's a huge accomplishment. That's awesome. So I just hate that some guys just get this because they're popular and they're selling a shoe. And on top of that, it makes and costs people money. There's incentives in the contracts for being an all-star, which I almost feel like the owners just should remove that and have it be an all-NBA nod. Because when you're getting voted in just because you're a popular player and your wins and losses don't matter and people are just voting you in because they think you're cool and you're in commercials, like, I'm sorry, but that shouldn't then get involved with the business side of things, in my opinion. So, again, obviously everyone else, for the most part, I think Steph has carried the Warriors and has been playing amazing basketball. Very well deserved for Steph Curry. Jokic, he's incredible. Well deserved for him. Kawhi is Kawhi. And he's doing his thing. So I get those guys being in there. Bradley Beal, he's on a pretty shitty team. But it's kind of like Luka. Without Bradley Beal, they ain't doing much. And Bradley Beal has just been a professional. He's been playing. He's been putting up numbers. And he makes his team better, like it or not. Even though they're not great, without him, they'd be worse. And Giannis, obviously, is well-deserved. And Embiid definitely deserves it. This dude is in the running for MVP. So, again, I'd like to see some guys get rewarded. I don't know how, with the guards, like I said, it's just because it's a popularity contest. And it kind of bothers me because Ben Simmons is 8th in voting amongst guards in the Eastern Conference. That's a slap in the face to the game of basketball. If you watch basketball, Ben Simmons is in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. He shut down Dame Lillard a few nights ago. This guy is on the number 1 seed in the East. His statistics may not be Kyrie's statistics, but Ben Simmons is more deserving of that than Kyrie Irving. And people, I feel like, that watch basketball, know basketball, can tell you that right away. He's more deserving than Russell Westbrook, who's ahead of him in voting. He's more deserving than Trae Young, who's ahead of him in voting. And those are just point guards. Obviously, Jaylen Brown's on top above that. Zach LaVine is 4th in voting. So that sucks, man, because Ben Simmons is having a hell of a year, and this guy should be the one starting in the East. Especially because, like I said, the Sixers, they have only one guy starting. Brooklyn has 2. Get out of here. Nah. Like, it should be at least reward the number 1 team in the East and the guys that are contributing the most towards winning. So, I mean, that's just something that I thought was crazy. Now, all right, so we need to talk about the NBA. We talked about the standings last time. And one thing I want to look at is the Milwaukee Bucks. So let's talk Milwaukee Bucks. And Giannis already signed the Supermax. But, man, had he not signed that Supermax deal, oh, my God, the conversations we'd be having would be crazy. So I'm going to show you some of the game they played last night against Toronto. Let's check that out right now. All right, so last night's game, Milwaukee's hosting the Raptors. The Raptors just smacked them the game before. And the Raptors aren't the best team to be using as an example, but everything the Bucks pretty much manufacture goes through Giannis. Either him shooting a jump shot like he does right here. At least that's a good shot. But everything is iso ball. And it's Giannis driving into the paint, either doing it all by himself or trying to. Spread got the steal there. And just look at the Raptors on offense. They move it. It's pass, ball movement. And that's crucial. Obviously, everybody knows that in basketball because you keep the defense on their toes. Look at that. Beautiful cut. People moving without the basketball, and you get a layup. Whereas the Bucks on the other end, it's just Giannis pretty much going 1-on-5 and having to either make some miraculous shot like he did right there or find a teammate that's just standing in the corner, and it's easy for the defense to figure out. Look at the Raptors. They got a pick and roll going. Boucher there gets the slam. It's all movement. And people, even the ones that don't have the ball, are constantly moving. Look at this. Freddie driving. Pascal. Pretty easy run. Jump shot right there. Same thing. Pascal moving. Look, guys running without the basketball. OG. So ultimately, I don't think that this is sustainable basketball. And I just think that the Bucks, if they continue to do this, are obviously going to just be falling down the standings and things are going to get bad. Coach Bud could get fired. I mean, Giannis is kind of stuck now. He just signed this max deal. They sent draft picks away. Obviously, they've been dealing with the injury to Drew Holiday, which is a big factor. But at this point, you've done this run of good regular season basketball to just flame out in the playoffs, and then now this year it doesn't even. It looks like you might even flame out earlier. And like I just wanted to show those clips because it's just they have such predictable basketball. And like I said, the Raptors aren't like the best team to be the best standard of basketball, but it's just such a contrast when you watch that game last night. Obviously, I watched it because I'm a Raptors fan. And it was just, the game was so easy for Toronto, and it was so difficult for Milwaukee. It was never really close. And, the Raptors just had assist after assist after assist. When there's a guy driving, guys are moving. Whereas the Bucks, everyone's just watching Giannis. And if they happen to get a shot, it's because he drove, kicked it to a guy, and you kind of can predict that the guy's going to pull up and shoot that jump shot. And they say it's a make or miss league. But sometimes you can make your own misses and make your own makes. And, the Raptors getting all these layups, you're making your makes. That's a layup. That's a backdoor cut that leads to a dunk. You're making that make. So it's not just such a make or miss league. Sometimes there's just basketball and playing the game the right way. And right now the Bucks aren't doing that. I don't know if it's the coaching or if it's just the fact that maybe the pieces that they have aren't working out. But, you have your 7-footer out there shooting threes. That's a win for the defense. And ultimately, if Giannis is scoring, it's because he's taking on 3 guys in the paint, which is tough to do and I'm sure gets exhausting. So, it's crazy. I know Giannis is not going to win a 3rd MVP in a row this year, but if that Bucks team didn't have Giannis, they might not put up 80 points a game. Especially with that kind of offense. And who knows, maybe if they didn't have Giannis, they'd actually be moving the ball and not just standing around and watching. And so, the Bucks are just a team to watch because things could get ugly there. They've lost 5 in a row. They're the first team ever to win 5 straight games by 10 or more points and then go on to lose the next 5 games. By the time this clip is out, I'm not sure if the game with the Thunder would have been over or not, but they host the Thunder tonight. They're in the middle. The Bucks are in the middle of the longest homestand of the season, and they've just dropped 2 in a row at home to Toronto. So they have the Thunder tonight, and the Thunder are somehow 11.5-point underdogs. So I definitely think the Thunder will cover, but I also expect Milwaukee to start switching it up and changing things, and they run everything through Giannis until the last 6 minutes of the game. And then they just do the same thing, but run everything through Chris Middleton because Chris Middleton just has a more consistent jump shot. And obviously, when you're doing one-on-one basketball, a lot of times it's going to come down to jump shooting. So, that's just crazy to watch. A team that, was finals bound 2 years ago. We're up 2-0 on the Raptors, and then the Raptors won 4 in a row. Then last year they lose in 5 to Miami. And, who knows what's going to happen this year. But, I think they're very predictable. And, out of those right now, currently the top 4 teams in the East, which are, Philadelphia's number 1, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, and Indiana, the Bucks almost seem like the easier matchup. You just got to stop Giannis, and the rest is predictable pretty much. And they're not as deep as they used to be. They don't have shooters as good as they used to have, like Ilyasova and stuff like that. So we'll see. Obviously, getting Drew Holiday back would help them, but they've lost 5 in a row. And lucky for them, Giannis has signed that Supermax, because if he hadn't, the conversations right now would be insane about what's going to happen and where he's going to go. And losing 2 to the Raptors, us Rap fans would have been like, he's coming to Toronto. So we'll see what happens there. The Raptors, I pretty much criticized them last week for what the hell was going on with them. They've been playing better. Obviously, they got those 2 wins. They play Minnesota tonight. And then Miami also, who I criticized, played a little bit better. They beat the Sacramento Kings on the road last night. And having Jimmy Butler back, obviously, for them is huge. He's just such a winning player. And I say that all the time, and I think people overlook that sometimes. But guys like Draymond, guys like Jimmy Butler, they may not be scoring crazy numbers or putting up crazy stats, but they are winning players. They will do what's necessary to win. And sometimes I wish those guys would be rewarded more than just the splashy guys who never win anything. So, either way, we'll see. I'm obviously excited for this weekend to watch some more basketball games. A lot of games. I think there's 9 games on the slate tonight. So I'll be watching basketball. I'll be watching basketball throughout the weekend. We'll see if anything happens in the NFL. But we'll be back I'll be back early next week and have another episode up for you guys. So again, please subscribe, leave your comments, and let me know what you think and your opinions, and I'll make sure I read through those. Obviously, I'm trying to grow this as much as possible, so hopefully I'll keep getting these episodes up, and it'll keep growing, and eventually we can all join the discussions that I'm having. So we'll talk to you guys early next week. Have a great weekend. See you later.